A lock ring or lock washer down here at the end that you want to make sure you catch when you pull this apart, but go ahead and pull that out. Take that lock washer and set it aside. Okay, so this is your DU bushing, and then you have your lower guide bushings here. You want to go ahead and use a utility knife or something that has a fairly sharp edge on it. You can catch these bushings and they'll pop right out. I'm going to remove all three of those. Go ahead and slide your DU bushing off of the stanchion, and then slide your seal carrier along with the seal off and set it aside. Next step we're going to do is take a clean lint-free rag, wipe everything down. Okay, this is a good time to inspect the stanchion, make sure there's no damage, make sure everything's clean. If everything looks okay, go ahead and set that aside. Now we're going to go ahead and turn our attention to the main mast, and you want to basically get in there with the clean lint-free cloth, clean this all up. If you put your hand in there and feel if it's fairly clean and there's no grit or debris in there, just a quick wipe down will be enough. If it feels gritty, then I would recommend taking the next step, and that's to use a degreaser and go ahead and degrease it. Let it set for a couple of hours to completely dry, and then go ahead and proceed with this next step. So the next step is going to be to use some Slick Honey grease. This you can get from most bike shops. It's a really light lube. The thing that's important is it has real good cling properties even though it's light viscosity. So it's really designed to use for suspension applications and works very well for this. So go ahead and pack the grease in really well into the bearing here. You're going to do this real similar to the way you pack a wheel bearing on a car if you've ever done that. You're better off to get a little too much grease in there than not enough, so go ahead and apply that very liberally. Okay, now let's turn our attention back to the stanchion parts. So we're going to go ahead and take the seal carrier. Inside the seal carrier there's a double lip. You want to take your clean rag, wipe that out really good. It's a good time to go ahead and inspect for any cracks or checking. If there's any damage to the seal, you want to contact your local KS dealer and purchase a replacement seal. If the seal is clean and looks good, go ahead and continue cleaning. Again, we're going to take a little bit of our Slick Honey. We're going to go ahead and just pack that into that little cavity. That's going to do two things. One, it's going to pre-lube the stanchion, and probably more importantly, it's going to create a really good water barrier. So if you happen to use high pressure water to wash the bike, that grease is really going to stay in there and prevent that water from ever entering into the system. And go ahead and slide the seal on. Set this aside. Now our next step is going to be to go ahead and clean up our DU bushing. So just wipe it all down. Again, we're going to check the inside of this for any scoring or damage. If it's damaged, we want to contact our local KS dealer and get a new DU bushing. This one looks really good, so we'll go ahead and reinstall that. You want to be careful when you slide this on. There is a chamfer at the bottom edge here that'll help you guide that bushing on, but if it's tight, don't force it. Just take your time and be gentle with it. If you force it and it's not aligned properly, you can do damage to that DU finish. Okay, our next step is to put in the lower copper guides. So we're going to go ahead and put a little dab of grease in each one of the reliefs in your stanchion. Go ahead and set that aside. We're going to go ahead and take a clean rag and clean these up real good. Okay, again, this is a really good time to check these. Make sure there's no abnormal wear, make sure there's no damage. Once you verify that those are in good shape, go ahead and reinstall all three of those. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and reassemble the assembly, and the thing that you're going to want to watch is the alignment of the head with the markings. If you have an earlier production I-900 or I-950 or I-7. If you have a supernatural or a drop zone, you don't need to worry about this step because there's no printed markings on the shaft that have to be lined up, but we want to make sure that we're going to line those The other thing is that these 3 guides line up with 3 reliefs inside the bearing here. So we're going to go ahead and set this in. Okay, you want to make sure that all 3 of these stay in place as you push it in. Go ahead and push it in until it stops. Now we're going to take our 11mm nut and our lock washer. Go ahead and, okay, then we're going to use our wrench. Go ahead and tighten this up. Just want to tighten this enough so that it's snug. The lock washer should flatten out completely. Don't over torque it because you can damage the threads or break the shaft. Next step is to go ahead and push the DU bushing back into the shaft here. Slide your seal carrier down and tighten that up. This only needs to be hand tight. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and remove the bearing. First step is to insert the tool. Okay, next up we're going to take the rod. And there it is removed. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and install the roller bearing into the shaft. So the first step, if you look inside the lip here, there's a thick side and a thin side. You want to make sure that the thick side goes to the tool, back of the tool here when you install it. The next step is inside you've got the raceways. You want to make sure you line up the point with the inside of the raceway. Okay, and you're going to go ahead and set that in there. Once you get it lined up, take your mallet, and there you go. Okay, so today we're going to work on servicing I-series seat posts. First step is going to be to take the 11mm nut from the bottom. Then we're going to take the head off. Okay. Go ahead and take this pin out. And then take the lever off. Next step is to heat up the head. And then using a flat object like a piece of bar stock or chisel, go ahead and unscrew this. And set the head aside to cool. Be really careful because it's going to be really hot. Okay. next step is going to be to go